views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Here we are at New Roots Community Farm. It's an oasis of tranquility in the South Bronx, right on the Grand Concourse. So follow me and let's see what they're doing here. We're here at a wonderful, wonderful farm with Kathleen McTighe, who is the head farm person here. So, Kathleen, can you tell us what magic this is? Because for those of you who don't realize where we are, we're on 149th Street, or 153rd Street rather, in the Grand Concourse. And this is what you see if you walk along the Grand Concourse.
Yeah, so we're really lucky. It's called the New Roots Community Farm. It's a half-acre lot. It's owned by the City of New York, specifically the Department of Transportation. And since 2012, the International Rescue Committee, where I work, the IRC, has been working with partners here in the Bronx, like the Botanical Gardens and other organizations, to transition this site from a lot into an urban farm that you see today.
So you had this empty space. So how do you begin? How do you figure out where you're putting things? How do you design it?
And a lot of it, we're on a slope, so the Grand Concourse, which is behind us, is a lot higher than the street behind, down below, and so we had to make sure that we wouldn't have constant erosion because of rain on site. So the first things we did were there's like planted green areas here and behind you, and those are called bioswales, and they're planted with native plants that like to be a little bit wet. Like their roots like to be wet, so the idea is that it captures a lot of the rain coming onto the site and holds it in place so it doesn't wash out our garden beds. So that was the first thing that we did, and then after that, we take there's a lot of community members involved, and like I had mentioned, a lot of organizations, so we see sort of what the purpose of the site is, what we need to have on site, and then we build accordingly. So every year we sort of have plans, but plans get changed as we see how the community is using the space, how children are using the space, how seniors are able to move around, and then we've sort of been building the site each year, expanding our production, expanding what we have on site based on the need of the community.
What was the original idea for what this was going to be?
So, like I've mentioned, I work at the International Rescue Committee. We're a refugee resettlement organization here, started in New York, and we work in a variety of cities around the country, and we work in other countries around the world with displaced populations. And the idea is really to reconnect people to their communities through food. So all of us, regardless of where we're from, what language we speak, how long we've been in the United States, we all need to eat, and we all bring family and community together around food. And so it's a really logical place to start building community, because language barriers or cultural differences don't need to get in the way when it's really about growing food, sharing recipes, cooking together. And that's sort of the goal of this project, is to really bring our refugee clients in with the new community where they're living, and use food as a way to make linkages and build community.
Where are many of the refugees from who actually use the space?
Predominantly in the New York office, we are resettling clients from Iraq, Afghanistan, and Burma.
And how did you get involved with this?
I started my background is in urban agriculture, so in 2000 or 2001, I worked with Cornell Cooperative Extension here in the city. So at that time, they had a pretty robust urban agriculture program, and I was working with community gardens and urban farms in all 5 boroughs, and so that's how I really got to learn a lot from what was already happening in New York City. There's a lot of amazing community gardens in the city, a lot of amazing community gardeners, and so I was able to learn from them and sort of see what needs there were and sort of help where people are at and building new programs at Cornell. And then I worked with an organization called Just Food, which also does urban agriculture and regional agricultural programming. And then I consulted with other organizations, and so actually coming to the International Rescue Committee is the first time that I'm working with refugee populations. Obviously, community gardening in New York and everywhere is a very immigrant-led movement. However, this is sort of a unique population just in the terms of working with refugees, and so really learning everything about refugee resettlement and how that works overseas and here once our clients are arriving in the U.S.
So I found out about it because I walk by it, but how do the clients find it? How do the people who come in?
I mean, there's sort of there's a variety of things that happen on site, but two main things is we have a lot of community members that are community gardeners here, and then we also have a lot of programming. So we do, through my position at the International Rescue Committee, we do a job training program. We also do English in the garden classes, and so that way we're bringing our clients from the office, which is located in Manhattan, to the site for different programs. And then the idea is that IRC clients as well as neighborhood residents are able to access growing space and grow their own food and learn from each other that way. So a lot of the impact and relationships of partner organizations, local schools, is the same way that you found the site, sort of coming by and seeing it. And we're really lucky because we're on the Grand Concourse and we're exposed on three sides. It really is a way to, anybody passing by can obviously see the difference between what was here a few years ago and what's here now. And a lot of people have expressed interest in, like, how do I get involved? And they'd sort of walk in or, talk to us through the fence to see how they can get involved.
That's what I did. I talked to someone through the fence and they said to talk to you. So I'm walking by, I look through, I want to be involved. What do I do? What's the process?
So we ask anybody that wants to get involved to do 10 hours of volunteer work first, and this is really helpful because there's individual garden beds, but the goal is really that everyone understands the overall purpose and how the whole site functions. So if you come and you're doing those 10 hours of volunteer work, you see all the different projects happening on site, and then if and when you get a bed, then you're really conscious of, okay, it's not just my little garden bed, but it's also picking up trash when I walk in, or making sure that different areas are weeded, or letting somebody know when the water is broken, or whatever the issue might be. It sort of expands people's community concept of the garden. It's not just a garden, it's a community garden. So the goal of engaging people as volunteers first, we see who really can stick with it, because some people are really passionate but they just don't have time. We're New Yorkers, there's a lot can happen between wanting to garden and actually having time to do it. So those that are able to complete their 10 hours have really demonstrated their commitment, and then they usually end up to be great gardeners and a great asset to the garden overall.
So can we take a walk around?
Sure.
Great.
So from this vantage point, you get a perspective of the entire farm, this gorgeous half-acre farm. You get a good layout of, everything on the farm, the center point being the greenhouse surrounded by the individual garden beds, the bioswales, and the IRC beds over there. I mean, in the morning when I come, this is my first stopping point, just to get a view of and take in everything, because this is like an incredible oasis to work, place to work.
It's beautiful.
It is very beautiful.
And I love the urban landscape in the back and the way it sits in the middle of that, which is sort of an incredible juxtaposition of the buildings and all this greenery, and it's wonderful. It must be a wonderful place to be because it's so tranquilizing, and the green.
I like that word, tranquilizing, because that's the way I feel, like surrounded are cars, the Grand Concourse, and then you come in here and it's like this peaceful place among all of the chaos that is outside. And that's why when people come, they spend hours here and they don't want to leave.
Yeah, I can see that. And it's not even like you're walled in. I mean, you can see everything around you, but it still has that impact. So it's really a very special place. It's
also an incredible space because, for growing food and flowers, it's like we have surround sun. It's like perfect combination of all of these factors that allow us to grow beautiful flowers and incredible food.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
So this is part of our bioswale. We have two major ones that run the length of the garden. And if you notice the slope of the garden, that's part of the reason why we have bioswales, which have native plants, pollinators, a combination of both. And it's the reason why we plant them is the garden or the farm slopes coming this way, and it's to control the water
The
flow.
water from washing out all the plants.
Right, and causing erosion. So we have like pipes that run the length of the bioswale and come down this way. That you have a controlled water flow. Plus, it adds dimension and beauty to the garden.
Yeah,
you know, and the bees love it. The butterflies love it, or birds love it, and it's just great to look at. Another incredible thing we have on the farm here are our beehives, and we have 2 hives, and we actually harvest our own honey across at Cardinal Hayes High School. And the bioswales and all the flowers that we have here really assist in the flavor of the honey. I mean, if you notice, the beehive is right next to the bee balm plant, which is beautiful and red, and I noticed the bees going crazy for that.
So I have to ask a question about, you harvested at Cardinal Hayes. What do you do?
I would love to be an apprentice beehive person, definitely. But they have the facilities there that allow them to extract the honey from there.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's been here since I got here. Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you for this tour.
You're welcome.
Hey, I'm Darren Jaime. I'm the host of Wednesdays Open right here on BronxNet Television, Channel 67, and also on Verizon Files, Channel 33. Want to invite you every Wednesday. You get an opportunity to see what's going on in the world of news, current events, debates, public information. That's what happens here on Open every Wednesday. So we invite you to join us right here on BronxNet Television.
Hello there, this is Sandra Apia. Be sure to tune in on BronxNet Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. to catch my brand new show, The Sandra Apia Show. See you then.
Hello, good people of the Bronx and beyond. Welcome to A Life in Art.
Problems of the past to overcome together the challenges of the future. Presenting the first MC, the 21st century Vitruvian man with the message, Grandmaster Melon.
You gotta learn your body, pace yourself, and have fun. So let's go have fun. Let's go do it.
The key thing about shoulders, your shoulders is a 3-tier muscle. You have your front delts, you have your rear delts, and you have your mid delts. So when you're working out your shoulders properly, you have to do 3 different exercises.
It's wonderful being able to compete with a lot of these young guys from all over the world. It's important to stay in shape.
Welcome to Crotona Park in the Bronx, where we'll be visiting The Bronx is Blooming, a wonderful program headed up by Jennifer Beaugrand, where kids from all over the Bronx are learning how to take care of their environment. And here's an example. They've mulched and put a fence around this tree so it can grow safely. So come along and let's talk to some of the workers here and see what else they're doing. So, this is Jennifer Beaugrand, who runs this amazing program called The Bronx is Blooming, and we're here at Crotona Park with her to hear all about how she got these kids to take care of these trees.
So the Bronx is Blooming is an organization that focuses on bringing communities together to care for their local parks and local environment. Our 3 focal points are environmental stewardship, community building, and youth leadership development. So you're here actually during our summer PLACE program, and PLACE stands for Program for Leaders Advancing Their Community's Environment. And so we work specifically and intentionally with Bronx high school students who come out for a 6-week period in partnership with the Summer Youth Employment Program and Mashalou Montefiore Community Center. And so we bring out, this summer we have 4 groups and about 40 high school students, Bronx high school students, that are working with us. They're working in 4 distinct parks, and each group of high school students is led by a college-age mentor, and those college-age mentors are all Bronx high school graduates who are in college.
How did this all start, and whose idea was it? Who came up with this idea?
I would say this is something that I have been working toward for a very long time. I have been in youth leadership development since graduating from college, and then I became a landscape designer and a gardener. I actually worked for the Parks Department in 2005 and 2006 at one specific park and had youth work with me in programming like this. Then I ran a program similar to this for a nonprofit in the Northwest Bronx, and through these different avenues, I've looked at how we can expand the type of programming and expand what our students are getting out of the programming. So our summer program now, our PLACE program, does a number of things for our students. It, 1, teaches them about an environmental problem that the Bronx is facing and how we, through our action, can help to combat and help ameliorate that problem. That's 1. 2, they learn basic horticulture skills, and they learn how to care for their trees, right? So that's 2. And 3, our students, as you can see from Emmanuel right behind us, our students are working also to learn leadership skills. And those leadership skills are everything from gaining a skill set and then using kind of the train the trainer model, where they take that skill set that they've learned and they are teaching other people. Today we're working with high school students from a Bronx high school that is located right around Crotona Park. We try and keep our programming on some level local programming where our students are working specifically with people in the community, if possible. That does not always work. But our students also lead corporate groups from around the city and beyond who come out and volunteer with our program in one-day service projects. So these students are coming out, and for many of them it's their first job, so they're 14 and 15 years old. And this is an experience that they can then take and say that they've actually supervised not just their peers, not just students who are in college, but also company volunteers from all over.
That's wonderful. And I noticed that when we were walking around, some of the trees have little fences around them, and you were saying that this is part of what they're doing?
This is part of what they're doing today, and it's part of what we do. In caring for our environment, one of the biggest things that we do is we care for a lot of the small trees. So people come in and they plant small trees in the parks, right? And what we do is we kind of come behind them and we care for those small trees till they get to a point where the trees can kind of take care of themselves. And that involves everything from park trees to street trees. So we do a lot of street trees as well. You're not seeing that today, obviously, but street trees in terms of we help to aerate, we help to mulch, so that those trees can help absorb more water in a way to combat the stormwater issues that we have in the city. And I'm not going to go into detail on that, but we do work a lot with stormwater management, and that is really the environmental issue that our students are helping to combat, which is pollution in our rivers. I mean, at the end of the day, what it translates into is pollution in our rivers. But another piece and component to our program that connects to where they work with college-age mentors is that our students also, through the course of our summer program, visit a variety of colleges in the Bronx to get them thinking about, especially for the 14 and 15-year-olds in our program, to get them thinking about the idea of college, where they want to go, what kind of questions they need to ask when they go and visit colleges, and whether those schools actually have what they're looking to do.
So this is a wonderful, wonderful youth development program, and I know that we're going to be looking at a lot of what they're doing. It's really great to see. It's great to see all these kids who came together at the beginning in sort of a big group now actively engaged in doing the work. So let's walk around and see what they're doing.
Sounds good.
If you want to stay in the know about the latest happenings en español, check out Diálogo Abierto, BronxNet's own Spanish show, Wednesdays 6:30 p.m. on Channel 67. The latest in news, arts, culture, politics, and what's going on in your neighborhood. Diálogo Abierto, the best way to stay connected in Spanish. See you there. Te esperamos.
Every Monday night at 9, we talk to the borough's movers and shakers about the latest in Bronx politics, education, healthcare, arts and culture, and literally any and everything that's important to the people of the Bronx. There's a reason why Bronxites have been turning to Bronx Talk for more than 20 years, because Bronx Talk is about you and me, the people of the Bronx. So we'll see you Monday night at 9.
Welcome, everybody. We are open. I'm the Dr. Bob Lee from 107.5 WBLS. You can catch me on there each and every night right after the Quiet Storm. You can catch me right here on Open, 10 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and 10 o'clock. Let's just call it on the 10s and then just keep it tuned. And we got you covered like a blanket, okay? I'm out in the community and we're all over the place because we are now open.
How did you get involved with this program?
Well, I got through it through Summer Youth at Marshallville, and they let us pick the job sites, and I ended up picking this one, so now I'm here.
Oh, that's great. So I have two questions to ask you about the program in terms of how you feel it's changed you.
Okay.
First of all, how do you feel about the environment now that you've been spending all this time doing this work?
Well, now that I've started working here, the way that I see the environment is that anything that I do helps in the long run, like in the end game, it helps because it's like I'm doing something good for the environment in general. So it's helping everyone, whether they see it or not, it really is. So.
And you also said something about how you feel when you see weeds in people's gardens.
Oh yeah.
Can you tell me that again? I love that.
Like I would leave work, and let's say I'm walking home, or I'm just walking around after work, and I see weeds in somebody's garden, and I think, oh, they need me there to do that, or they need someone that does what I do, that weeds and mulches to handle their garden.
So if people wake up one morning and they find that their gardens have been weeded and mulched,
it's probably me.
They should look for you. So I have another question. You've been a leader this summer. You've been leading kids. So what does that feel like, and how do you think of yourself now?
It's empowering, but then again, it shows you that everyone deserves respect. Like no matter how young, no matter how old, you still have to respect them. You have to treat them a certain way. Just because I'm the leader doesn't mean, I could tell you to do this or tell you to do that. It's better to lead by example because it makes people want to work harder for you. Like when I first started this, our mentor, she gave us like leaders of the week. I ended up getting the first week. And I realized that when you just go do it, it's easier for the next person to do it. It's like, oh, he just did it, so I could do it. And it's no problem. The next time I have to ask them, oh, can you go mulch? All right, sure.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sure you've been a wonderful leader. And thanks. Thanks for spending time with me.
No problem.
So tell me how your thoughts have changed, if they have, about the environment since you've been working in the environment all summer.
Well, they've changed a lot. I didn't know anything really about the environment. I would go to the parks, I would see green everywhere, but now I go to the park and I'm like, oh, this plant is this plant and this is this. So it's like, I look at it differently now, and I look at mulch, like things that are mulched, and I'm like, oh, this is nutritious for the plants. Before I used to think it was just to make everything look pretty, but now I know it's a bigger purpose.
Oh, that's terrific. And also you've been a leader all summer, so how does that feel? Did you see yourself a leader as a leader before you started doing this?
Yeah, honestly, but I gained more confidence and I became more comfortable in speaking to people. So that's definitely a plus because, you know, in the future, if I go for interviews for different jobs, like I'll be more comfortable and I won't, you know, stutter or anything like that.
And so you out of school now, or are you still?
Yeah, right now I'm out of school. I start September 8th, I believe, yeah.
What school?
I go to Taft Educational Campus.
Yeah, oh, terrific.
So, you know, starting up soon, going into my 11th year, grade.
And then maybe we'll see you someday as an environmentalist working in parks.
Maybe.
So, thank you. Thanks for spending time.
No problem.
And join us next time when we'll take you on another adventure through the world of nonprofits in the Bronx.
So they say it's a man's world? Well, I don't see anybody's name on it. While they were out doing their thing, we slowly changed all that. We changed all that. Today, women can do anything men can do. And there's one thing we're even better at.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.